So let's chant the prayer and then we can start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So we'll speak about a very elevated topic today. It was already getting very elevated last time. We spoke about bhava, but prema is the goal of life, the highest achievement that with a materially conditioned mind, it's not even possible to properly understand. But we'll still speak about it a little bit. So first, let's just recap on what we learned about bhava, because prema is the mature stage of bhava. So we had this verse, definition of bhava bhakti. Prema, would you be able to... I read the Sanskrit and then you can read the translation. Shuddha sattva visheshatma prema suryam shusamya bhak ruchibis chittamasrinya kridaso bhava uchyate.
When devotional service is executed on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a sunray of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and one is then situated in bhava, emotion.
Okay, so bhava softens the heart and prema softens it completely. When bhava extends or deepens to the maximum, then that's prema. It's like bhava is the sun ray, like the sun is just rising, and prema is when the sun is already up. Or bhava is this kind of flower that's still not open, and prema is the opened flower. Okay, so bhava is kind of like a bud form of prema. And this is the verse for definition of prema. Samya masrinita svanto mamotvati shayankita bhava saiva sandratma buddhai prema nigatyate. Yashoda Priya, are you able to read or you're somewhere else?
Yes, I can. When that bhava softens the heart completely, one becomes endowed with a great feeling of possessiveness in relation to the Lord, and becomes very much condensed and intensified. It is called prema, love of Godhead, by learned scholars.
Okay, so I'll go through a little bit in this definition, but before we do that, we read a few other definitions of prema. It's much nicer to see you, Yashoda Priya. You always see the deities, which are also really nice, but it's even nicer to see you in person. Okay, so this was one definition that Yashoda Priya just read out. In the Pancharatra, there is a definition. According to Bhishma, love means reposing one's affection completely upon one person, withdrawing all affinities for any other person. So obviously this one person is Krishna. That's when it's prema. And sorry, this was not from the Maratha Pancharatra. This was Nectar of Devotion. And then Nectar of Devotion, quoting from Narada Pancharatra, it says, when lust is completely transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the concept of kinship is completely reposed in him, such is accepted as pure love of God. So when lust is completely transferred to the Supreme Godhead, and the concept of kinship is completely reposed in him, such is accepted as pure love of God. So all your loving emotions are transferred to Krishna. It doesn't mean that you're completely callous, cold, and uncaring with everybody else in the world, but it's more that your love for them is part of your love for Krishna. Okay, so it's not that elevated devotees who have prema are completely uncaring. That's not the idea. Okay, so now let's go back to this definition again. When bhava softens the heart completely, one becomes endowed with a great feeling of possessiveness in relation to the Lord and becomes very much condensed and intensified. It is called prema, love of Godhead by learned scholars. So just as with the other definitions, there are primary characteristics and secondary characteristics. The primary, as we mentioned, bhava, when it intensifies to the highest extent, it is prema. So the primary characteristic of prema, that it's an intensified state of bhava. Okay, is this understandable? Clear? Okay. And then the secondary characteristics, one is the samyam masrinta svanto. It completely softens the heart. Remember, bhava softened the heart with various emotions. Now prema completely softens it. And mamatva tishayankita, characterized by highly possessive ownership of Krishna. So this mamatva means mine. Usually we try to avoid this I and mine. But when the mine is that Krishna is mine, then it's good. Okay? So first we try to work on I am Krishna's. First we try to understand I belong to Krishna, I'm Krishna's servant, I should surrender to Krishna, give my life to Krishna, I belong to Krishna. This is what we're working on right now. But at the stage of prema, then devotees start thinking Krishna is mine. Okay, so you see a little change in the emotions. It doesn't mean that Krishna is my order carrier and he's just there to do whatever I want him to do. Although in some ways that's also there, you know, Arjuna had Krishna as his chariot driver. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavatam where it describes how Krishna was the messenger and chariot driver and guard of the Pandavas, and he showed his love for them. But it's not like when we expect things from other people. This is like a loving exchange between Krishna and the Pandavas. Okay? So in bhava, one sees Krishna and understands his eternal relationship with Krishna. One sees Krishna and understands the eternal relationship with Krishna. It's like seeing the party through the window. Remember we had this thing 2 weeks ago that you're driving to your friend's house and you just arrived. The GPS says you have arrived to your destination, but you're still outside. So you can see through the window, they're having kirtan and some nice prasadam or whatever, but you're not inside yet. And prema is when you're actually inside. Okay, it's the same place, it's just one is like seeing through a window, and prema is you actually enter the pastimes. You actually enter the house and take part in the party. Okay. Is this okay so far? Okay. So to achieve prema, I might need to close this window. We have a new neighbor with a tractor, and every so often he decides to tractor. Okay, so achieving prema is two ways. One is by maturation of bhava, and two is by extraordinary mercy. So the first one, when bhava matures, we spoke about it, how prema is the kind of completely mature form of bhava, the completely mature stage of bhava. And it can come from two directions or from two aspects. One is from Vaidhi Bhakti and the other is from Raganuga Bhakti. So the one coming from Vaidhi Bhakti is called Vaidha Bhavato. So from Vaidhi Bhava, or from Bhava that came from Vaidhi Bhakti, or Bhava achieved through Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Remember where the inspiration for devotional service is? In Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti was the inspiration for devotional service. Yashna Priya?
Duty or following the spiritual master in the scriptures.
So this is my duty, this is the right thing to do, this is the instruction of my spiritual master, this is the instruction of the scripture, so I'm doing it. Very good. So this is achieving bhava from Vaidhi Bhakti and then prema from that. And that kind of prema takes you to Vaikuntha, which is a wonderful place. And then the other one is through Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. In Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, what is the inspiration, what is the motivation for doing devotional service? Nilachar Chandra Prabhu?
Like it's spontaneous, or you're following someone who's previously done it, so you're just following their footsteps.
So it's spontaneous, you're following the same rules and regulations, very good. So why are you doing it? What's inspiring you? What's driving you? What's motivating you? Divya Vrindavan, you got some?
Yeah, love, like an overwhelming sense of love for Krishna.
This raga, this overwhelming attachment, affection, love for Krishna. I just really want to please Krishna. So in Vaidhi, this is this duty, this is the right thing to do. Spiritual master, scriptures, they told me to do this. In Raganuga, you do the exact same things, like Nilachar Chandra Prabhu says, but the motivation is more, I really want to please Krishna. Okay, so prema achieved through Raganuga Sadhana and Raganuga Bhava, then that's called Raganugiya Bhavoto. So from Bhava achieved through Raganuga Sadhana. So these are the aspects of achieving prema through the maturation of Bhava. And the other one is by extraordinary mercy. Now, to achieve prema or even Bhava in any way, you need mercy. So even if it's through sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti, you still can't get prema unless you get the mercy of devotees, mercy of Krishna, Bhakti Devi, Srimati Radharani, as much mercy as you possibly can get. So we always need mercy. But then in some cases, somebody didn't practice sadhana, but somehow they're just very fortunate and they get prema by extraordinary mercy. In the Nectar of Devotion, in the 19th chapter deals with the Prema Bhakti. So there are verses that exemplify all these three kinds of attaining. So the first one, the achieving Prema through the maturation of Vaidhi Bhava, Bhava from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Then it says, a devotee in the course of executing the regulative principles of devotional service develops his natural Krishna consciousness, and being thus softened at heart, he chants and dances like a madman. While performing chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he sometimes cries, sometimes talks wildly, sometimes sings, and sometimes, without caring for any outsider, dances like a madman. So this is achieving prema. First you were doing the regulative principles, and by that you naturally develop your Krishna consciousness. The second one, developing prema from Ragadunga Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava, and like that. It says, Chandrakanti, a celebrated fair-faced girl, rigidly observed celibacy in order to obtain Krishna as her husband. She always engaged herself in meditating on the transcendental form of the Lord and always chanted the glories of the Lord. She didn't desire to accept anyone else as her husband. She had firmly decided that only Lord Krishna would be her husband. So her motivation for devotional service wasn't the rules and regulative principles. It was that she really wanted to please Krishna. She wanted Krishna as her husband. And another symptom is that she didn't want anybody else as her husband. So she had this virakti. Who remembers? This is one of the 9 symptoms of bhava. Which one is it? This virakti. You can look it up if you have it in your notes. Yashoda Priya?
Like indifference to objects of sense gratification.
Yeah, so indifference to material things. She didn't want anybody else as her husband, and no material men she was interested in. Okay, and also this concept that Krishna is her lover is this mamatva idea that Krishna is mine. Remember, this was one of the where is this? This mamatva. Krishna is mine. Okay, and then by extraordinary mercy, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, there is it's a kind of longish verse, so try to stay focused. It describes many different kinds of people who achieved love of Krishna, even though they didn't undergo any serious sadhana, studying scriptures, austerities, anything like that. But simply by association of devotees, association of Krishna, they achieved Krishna. So I read out the verse so we can all get purified and inspired that there is hope. In every yuga, many living entities entangled in the modes of passion and ignorance gain the association of my devotees. Thus such living entities as the Daityas, Rakshasas, birds, beasts, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, Guyakas and Vidyadharas, as well as such lower caste human beings as the Vaishyas, Shudras, women and others, were able to achieve my supreme abode. Vritrasura, Prahlad Maharaj and others like them also achieved my abode by association with my devotees, as did personalities such as Vrishaparva, Bali Maharaj, Banasura, Maya, Vibhishan, Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambavan, Gajendra, Jatayu, Tuladhara, Dharmavyada, Kubja, the gopis in Vrindavan, and the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifice. The persons I have mentioned didn't undergo serious studies of the Vedic literature, nor did they worship great saintly persons, nor did they execute severe vows and austerities. Simply by association with me and my devotees, they achieved me. Okay, so this is an example of how just by mercy one achieves prema. But we always need mercy. Even if we perform the strictest sadhana, we still need mercy to achieve bhava and prema. Okay, is this Yashoda Priya?
I wanted to ask, is how do I word this properly? It sounds like this idea of achieving prema by extraordinary mercy is almost a little bit like against the free will of the jiva.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I understand it, because it's like, even though it's the greatest fortune, it's kind of dumped on you. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So your free will is whether you accept it or not.
Okay.
Okay, so even if somebody gives you the greatest mercy, you still have a choice to say no thanks. Or you can be really happy and feel very lucky.
Okay, so everyone in this list, for example, that has achieved extraordinary mercy has taken it also.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So they must have had some kind of devotional piety, because they recognized how wonderful it is and they accepted it. Okay. Anything else? Any other? Well, thank you for the question. It's really good that you kind of think about these things. That makes things go deeper. Niratya Chandra Prabhu?
Well, it's probably a really silly question, but I was just wondering, because we have an individual relationship.
We have an individual?
We have an individual relationship with Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this just this process? There must be, because it just seems very, not mechanical, but you do this and you get, I'm thinking, well, if we're all different, there must be different paths for reaching the same goal.
So I just to make sure I understand your question properly. So we all have an individual relationship with Krishna. So we should all have like individual paths or different paths to attain that individual relationship. Is that the question? So why do we all just chant 16 rounds and?
Now, obviously, you have to get to a level of this, but in the essence, because we're different. So it's like studying. I find studying really difficult. If they're speaking, I can listen. Studying is not. I've never been a studier. I don't know why. So that's why I'm thinking. Well, how do I follow these things and get to where we go?
The good news is it's all a little bit different. So we got the basics, 16 rounds, 4 regulative principles, kind of trying to associate with devotees, serve devotees, read the scriptures, the 5 processes. Remember the 5 processes? Chanting the holy names, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, deity worship, associating with devotees, living in the holy dham. But exactly how you do that is an individual thing. So, like you say, you're happy listening to classes, more goes in than reading. That's perfectly fine. Some devotees, they chant their 60 rounds, but they feel much more inspired by sitting in a bhajan with other devotees. Some devotees like to cook for devotees, others like to make bead bags for them, others like to go out on Harinam, or, it's all different things. We all need to find things that inspire us, that nourish our Krishna consciousness, and then do those things. The basics are the same. It's not that I don't feel nourished by chanting 60 rounds, so I'm just going to make bead bags. It's nice that you make bead bags, but even if, hopefully by chanting, you will start getting a taste. And this is the basics, and to some extent, this is the externals. But like you say, once we become more advanced, then also our individual cultivation, because our relationship with Krishna is individual, our individual cultivation also becomes different. So, for example, if you have a relationship with Krishna as a cowherd boy, like a friendly relationship, then you will read different books, different scriptures. You will associate with devotees who have a similar mood, a similar appreciation in Krishna consciousness, and that will nourish, that will cultivate your individual relationship with Krishna. And as that relationship becomes clearer and clearer, then your cultivation becomes more and more kind of refined. So first, maybe you know that you are a cowherd boy, or you start understanding that, you start going in that direction, reading those pastimes in the Krishna book, for example, Krishna playing with the cowherd boys. And then as you understand, okay, I'm attracted to serving Krishna as an older cowherd boy who is also somewhat protective of him, then you kind of start reading those kind of things, maybe listening to classes by devotees who speak about these things associated. Krishna usually sends devotees that you need at certain stages of your development. Associating with those kind of devotees, maybe visiting those places when you go to Vrindavan that are connected to those pastimes. And then among those older cowherd boys, which is the one that you want to kind of follow in the footsteps of? So do you understand what I mean, like how the cultivation becomes more and more specific and individual? Okay, does that answer your question, Prabhu? Okay. Anything else before we... Divya Vrindavan, please. I can't hear you.
Apologies, I'm sure you might want to move on, so I'll be quite quick, but it might be an obvious statement, but I'm also just kind of just reflecting on what Nila Chandra Prabhu kind of said, and a little bit what you showed of Priya said, I guess, in the terms of there is this process, it's scientific, and it almost would seem that it would come upon one, the more they, apply the process, the more sincere they are, and the more deeper they go in terms of the sadhana and the Vaidhi Bhakti. But obviously, though, one could follow this process, but actually ultimately as well, it depends on your karma from your past life, and actually where you come into bhakti in terms of in terms of where you're starting off. Actually, your Vaidhi bhakti, is it that you might be starting off in a somewhat different level than someone else who's coming to bhakti because of where you perhaps ended your past bhakti. Does that make sense? Is that right too, then, that the two will go together? Is that right?
The two meaning?
So your karma or past life in terms of where you were in your Krishna consciousness in bhakti versus how you're applying this process in terms of how you would advance, or in terms of where you are. Not that it's kind of measured, but in terms of your advancement, because surely you could perhaps follow this process in a very prescribed way, but depending on your conditioning and your karma, it is going to affect your advancement.
So
or not.
Karma and advancement are two different things. Karma is a kind of the material baggage that you are bringing with you.
Yeah. So I guess the more you burn off your karma, though, the more you purify yourself through like the anartas and the application, then perhaps, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking if someone's got more baggage than another individual.
It's harder.
Yeah.
Actually, at the end of the class, I was hoping we can go through a little bit about these anartas, the baggage that we bring from last life.
Yeah.
What stage of devotion, which ones are becoming purified, these kind of ideas. But it's correct what you're saying, that when in this life, when we start Krishna consciousness, we start from the point where we left off in last life. Either that or we come to that point very quickly. So sometimes you meet someone on the street, they get a book, a week later they move into the temple, or not move into the temple, but start practicing, and then 3 months later they are initiated, and they take up really, really quickly, and they come to the point where they were at their last life really, really quickly, and then the hard work starts. Okay, so like you say, it's what we bring from last life, and then from there we move on.
Sorry, I don't think I was very clear then. I apologize. That's helpful.
Well, thank you for your comment. Thank you. And Kat, you got something?
Hare Krishna. I have a sort of two-part question. The first part is when you said that we get bhava by Krishna's mercy. How do we get Krishna's mercy? And also the second part is like if Krishna gives it to us, like we pray for it, for example, and Krishna gives it after some time if he wants to. Isn't it like controlling Krishna? We're like kind of forcing him to give us his mercy.
You can't force Krishna to do anything unless you mean by you serve Krishna with so much love that Krishna can't help but reciprocate.
Oh yeah.
His love kind of makes him do it. But that's not like forcing someone, like putting a gun to their head. That's like it's more the force of love.
Okay.
Okay, and that was the second part, and the first part was that?
First part is how do we get Krishna's mercy? But I think you answered that we just have to like give him all our love and try and serve him with as much love as we can, and then see if he likes to give it his mercy.
Yeah, and also devotees' mercy. Very handy, very helpful.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Yashoda Priya?
Hare Krishna. I don't know if I missed this in regards to Divya's question and your answer, but in sort of in relation, is it possible then by someone, like how are these sorts of categories sort of viewed? Is this within this one lifetime? Because could it be that someone receives very extraordinary mercy because they haven't received, even though they haven't done any sadhana in this lifetime, but they have done in previous lifetimes to the point they're practically on bhava?
Yeah, it's possible that how did this person get all this mercy? But they were already almost there, so they just get the mercy. But then sometimes it is just extraordinary mercy, and they didn't make any special effort, or they made a really small effort, but that really pleased Krishna. So it can be all sorts of things.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, prema has two kinds. One is endowed with knowledge of the Lord's powers, which is called Mahatmya Jnana Prema. So Mahatmya means opulence, Jnana means knowledge. So when you know about the opulences of the Lord, when you know that He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's the Supreme Controller, Supreme Enjoyer, and we see here a picture of Lord Ram with Hanuman. Hanuman has a very close relationship with Lord Ram, but Hanuman knows that Ram is the Supreme Lord. Or in Vaikunta, you have Lord Narayan and Lakshmi Devi and all these associates who have the same form, Sarupya. They're servants of Lord Narayan. They also know Narayan is the Supreme Lord. Or you have Vasudeva and Devaki. When Krishna appears in the prison house, first he appears in this four-armed form, and the Vasudeva Devaki, they offer prayers. They know that he's the Supreme Lord. Okay? So this is prema, this is pure love for Krishna, but it also has knowledge that he's the Supreme Lord. Okay? And that knowledge kind of maybe makes the love, I'm not even sure whether to say less intense, but it kind of restricts the feelings of intimacy or closeness a little bit. Okay? And then the other kind of prema is called kevala. Anyone remembers what kevala means? Nishta Priya?
It's something like unalloyed.
Yeah, it means only. So we have kevala bhakti, only bhakti. Same as ananya bhakti, which is nothing else like analoy. So this prema is endowed only with knowledge of the Lord's sweetness. So like Mother Yashoda, the gopis, the cowherd boys, they don't really care about Krishna being God. Sometimes they are aware of it, but it's not part of their kind of emotional cultivation. It's a little bit, let's say somebody's husband or boyfriend or father is a high court judge. So they know the person is a high court judge, but it's not part of their relationship with him. Okay, so that's the kind of this kevala bhakti. Now, the next point is the behavior of a person with prema, a person who has prema. It says the behavior of a person with prema is very difficult to understand, even for those learned in the scriptures, because even they themselves don't understand it. Those learned in the scriptures define the goal of life as destruction of suffering and attainment of happiness. But it's difficult to understand if prema bhaktas have achieved this, judging from their external appearance or behavior. Because externally they may be very distressed. You have the gopis very distressed because Krishna disappeared. You have Mother Yashoda being very angry at Krishna for breaking the butter jug or whatever it is. But internally they're enjoying the highest bliss, even if it's the bliss of separation. So with the material mind, it's not possible to totally understand prema, to understand the behavior, feelings of devotees who have prema. Okay, so we can read about it, we can offer our respects to it, but we can't expect to totally understand it. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it says, the only way to understand prema is if you have the good fortune of meeting personified prema, Srimati Radharani, and she speaks to you. Then you'll understand prema. Or if Krishna appears as a great devotee, and then from him, Lord Chaitanya, you can understand prema. There is no other way to understand prema. Okay? So we kind of speak about it now, but an important part of this discussion is to understand that we can't actually properly understand it. Okay? Okay. Another point in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it explains how dainya, or humility, is like prema. So as dainya, as humility increases, so does prema. And when somebody is completely humble, meaning completely understands that he's Krishna's servant and the total purpose of his life is the pleasure of Krishna, and gives up all desires of selfishness, self-gratification, then to that extent he achieves prema. Okay, any points or questions so far? Okay, next. Okay, so we spoke about this Vaidhi sadhana and Raganuga sadhana, and how you get like a certain kind of bhava from Raganuga sadhana, a certain kind of bhava from Vaidhi sadhana, and then prema from that. So from Raganuga sadhana or Vaidhi sadhana with Shyama Sundar Krishna as the goal, then you get a certain kind of bhava bhakti that comes from Raganuga, and then you get Kevala prema. Who remembers what's this Kevala prema? Yashoda Priya?
There's just Krishna, nothing else, but just absorption Krishna.
So it's just knowledge of Krishna's sweetness, not worrying about Krishna's opulences, greatness as God, just Krishna's sweetness. So through this Raganuga sadhana, where the inspiration for devotional service is to please Krishna, our love, affection, overwhelming attachment to Krishna, then you get this kind of prema. And through Vaidhi sadhana, where the inspiration is rules, regulations, scriptures, duty, then you get that kind of bhava, and then from that you get Mahatma Jnana Prema and the 4 types of Vaishnava liberation and Vaikunta. Okay, so what is Mahatma Jnana Prema? Anyone? Okay, Kat, very good.
Yeah, it's knowing Krishna as God and sort of having that own reverence relationship with him.
Mm-hmm. It's still a very close relationship, but it's got this own reverence. And then you get the 4 types of Vaishnava liberation. So for an extra 20 marks, who remembers what are these 4 types of Vaishnava liberations? Or even 1 or 2 of them? Prema?
There's Swarupya, getting the same form, getting the same opulences, having the same abode, and having his association. No.
Yeah, so Sarupya is the same form, Sarshti is the same opulences, Samipya is the association, Salokya is the same place, and then you've got the 5th one, which devotees don't accept, is the Sayujya merging. Very good, thank you, Prema. 20 marks. Okay. Okay, any points before we move on to the next part? Okay, so the last section in this chapter describes the evolution to prema, how we achieve prema through this quite well-known verse. Adosha tata sadhu sangata bhajana kriya tato narta nivrittisya tato nishtaru chistata atasaktistato bhavas tata prema abhyudanchati sadhakanam ayam premna pradur bhave bhavet krama. So this describes the stages of devotional service. Kat, would you be able to read out?
No. In the beginning, there must be faith. Then one becomes interested in associating with pure devotees. Thereafter, one is initiated by the spiritual master and executes the regulative principles under his orders. Thus, one is freed from all unwanted habits and becomes firmly fixed in devotional service. Thereafter, one develops taste and attachment. This is a way of sadhana bhakti, the execution of devotional service, according to the regulative principles. Gradually, emotions intensify, and finally there is an awakening of love. This is a gradual development of love of Godhead for the devotee interested in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. So it's probably somewhat familiar, some of the names. We had this slide before, remember, from Bhakta Bill, first coming in contact with devotees. He has some initial Shraddha, Ado Shraddha. Shraddha is the first thing. Then Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees. Bhajana Kriya, making a decision that you are going to be a devotee. So until this Bhajana Kriya, then you're more like a believer. You accept Krishna is God, but you're not really doing much about it. So Bhajana Kriya is maybe you take initiation, or maybe you're not taken initiation yet, but you're working towards it, performing devotional service. That's Bhajana Kriya. And simultaneously, as you start this process, this Anartha Nivritti, purifying the anarthas, becomes stronger and stronger, becoming free from unwanted things. Then as a certain amount of, or a good amount of unwanted things are purified, then you attain the stage of Nishta, steadiness. Ruchi, taste, this is more taste for service. So you really like to chant, you really like to serve the deities, you really like to go on parikram, read Srimad Bhagavatam, so taste for service. And then asakti, attraction, is more for the person of Krishna. Then bhava, we just discussed that, and prema, pure love of God. So these are the different stages that this verse describes. So there must be faith, shraddha, interested in associating with devotees, sadhu sangha, initiated by the spiritual master, executes devotional service, bhajana kriya, freed from unwanted habits, anartha nivritti, firmly fixed is Nishta. Thereafter, one develops taste and attachment, ruchi, asakti. So these are the ways of sadhana bhakti. So up to this point, it's sadhana bhakti. Then bhava bhakti, emotions intensify. And finally, awakening of love, prema bhakti. Okay? So these are the different stages. This is the same verse. Same stages, just a different slide. Okay. Any kind of points relating to this, Kat?
Yeah, I have a question about Nishta and Ruchi. So, like, how much, like, can you get a certain amount of taste if you're on the platform of Nishta? And what's the kind of difference between that and, like, being on the platform of Ruchi?
Okay, so these stages are not boxes that you are in one box and then you just jump into the next box and then the next box. But even, let's say, even at the stage of Shraddha or Sadhu Sangha, you already have some taste, ruchi. You might even have some little attachment to Krishna. Okay, but the name refers to what's most prominent at that stage. Okay, so anarthas are being purified even at bhajana kriya, even at sadhu sangha. In fact, some anarthas are being purified even at asakti and bhava. Okay, but at this stage, anartha nivritti, that's when that's the most prominent. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
So Prabhupada describes this under the heading of association of pure devotees, because all along we need the association of devotees. In one sense, that's what propels or drives us forward. That's how we first get faith, and that's all the different stages. For that we need the association of devotees. Okay, and then even when we attain the stage of prema, within prema there are also stages of development. So it's called prema, sneha, pranaya, mana, raga, anuraga, mahabhava. Mahabhava is Srimati Radharani, what she has. But so even within prema there are stages of development. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about these anarthas. It's a somewhat complex topic, so I will explain each thing in turn. So first of all, where do they come from? Anartha means unwanted things. What's their origin? Where do they come from? So they have four sources, four origins: from past sinful activity, from past pious activity, carelessness in devotional service, seva aparad, and offenses to holy names, deities, devotees, holy places, other living entities, but mainly offenses to holy names, because that also includes all these other things. So nama aparad. So these are the four sources of anarthas. So past sinful activity, I think that's quite clear, and that can become a big baggage. Past pious activity, quite often we are encouraged to do like good works, open hospitals, help the poor, which are not bad things, but just on their own, they create not iron shackles, but golden shackles that bind us to the material world. So they're still unwanted things, because from past sinful activity, these are things we have to suffer from. From past pious activity, these are things we have to enjoy. But both of them keep us in the material world, because we have to enjoy or suffer them here. Okay. Another kind of way of categorizing these anarthas, I think it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says some of them come from offenses, some of them come from material desires, either for material objects, you want a really good car, heavenly pleasures, mystic powers, yoga siddhis, or liberation. That's the second type. The third type is called weakness of heart. When you want to do the right thing but can't quite do it. Envy, desire for fame, deceitfulness, fault finding, attachment to material objects. And then the fourth type is more like philosophical deviations or misunderstandings of spiritual truth, relating to oneself as the servant of Krishna, relating to the Supreme Lord, relating to devotional service, and about subjects unfavorable to devotional service. So this is just a different categorization, but the one we are going to use is this first one. So 4 sources of anarthas: past sinful activity, past pious activity, carelessness in devotional service, and offenses to the holy names. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to explain first. The second thing is the purification of the anarthas. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes 5 levels of purification. The first one is limited, when only one anartha is being purified to a limited extent. Okay, so a good way to imagine this is that you have a big house with lots of very messy rooms, and you're starting to tidy one room. Okay, so maybe some of the things you put in the cupboard so you can get to the table or desk or whatever. So you're doing a little bit in one room. That's limited purification. Pervasive means that many anarthas are being purified. So you're working on many rooms at once. They're all still quite messy, but it's kind of, you're working on many rooms. The next one is almost complete, which means almost all the anarthas are destroyed. So all the rooms are starting to look tidy. complete means all the anarthas are completely nullified. They're completely purified. All the rooms are really nice and neat and tidy. And then absolute, it doesn't just mean that the anartha is purified, it also means that there is no chance of the anartha returning. I don't know whether that's possible in a house, unless you don't have anything in the house. But that's the idea, that there is no chance that those rooms will ever become messy again. Okay, so these are the 5 levels of purifying the anarthas. Now, the anarthas that we spoke about here, so anarthas from past sinful and pious activity, their purification is complete at Nishta, at the stage of steadiness. Remember that we have Nishta here. So at Nishta, anarthas from past bias and sinful activities are completely purified. And they are absolute, meaning there is no chance of those anarthas returning at asakti. So once you become attracted to Krishna himself, you're not going to do pious and sinful activities because it just has no meaning in your life. Okay? Anarthas that come from improperly performed devotional service. This one. Their purification is complete at Nishta, similar to this, and absolute at Ruchi, so even earlier than this one. So Ruchi is when you start having a taste here for devotional service. And the reason for that is that these anarthas came from improperly performed devotional service, which means that you were doing devotional service. And Bhakti Devi really appreciates that. So she says, okay, he or she is trying really hard, maybe some inattention or accident, something happened. It became an anartha, but just by, continuing devotional service, they can be totally purified. But if you keep doing that improperly performed devotional service, thinking that it's okay, I just continue chanting, it will go away, then it becomes an offense. It becomes this. And then it's much harder to purify. Okay? So sometimes, in deity worship, it's beyond your control. You kind of, somehow you're not completely clean or pure. You try your very best so that it never happens again. Okay? You chant the mantras for forgiveness. Try your best for it never to happen again. It's not going to cause you a big obstacle in devotional service. But if you become complacent and you don't bother taking a shower or washing your clothes, it doesn't matter, I just chant the holy names, I just chant the mantras for forgiveness, then it becomes an offense. Then it's much harder to purify. So this is the 3rd type. So anarthas that come from offenses, their purification is almost complete at bhava. So it's at a much higher level, except for offenses to great devotees. Okay? And purification of these offenses is absolute at Vastu Siddhi. Vastu Siddhi is when you go back to Godhead, when you actually attained perfection. Okay, so this is how anarthas are purified, and I think it makes it clear that purifying anarthas is not just this specific stage, it kind of goes on all through your devotional service. And it also makes sense to try to avoid offenses especially, but even improperly performed devotional service and other things, because it just makes our own life harder. Okay, any questions or points relating to this? Comes from this book. this Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. Maharaj put it together from Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's book, and a few other places, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, like that. Okay. Another thing I wanted to explain a little bit, it's not strictly part of this, we could say, Nectar of Devotion course, because it's from the next part of Nectar of Devotion, but I find it very interesting, so I wanted to share it with you. Remember when we first started Nectar of Devotion, we said that there are 4 parts of the ocean: the eastern side, southern side, western side, northern side, and we only dealt with this eastern side. General devotional service, overview of devotional service, and then sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. That's what we did. This is the part of the Bhakti Shastri course this is the part that Bhakti Shastri course teaches or deals with. And the next part of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu deals with these bhavas, the overview of rasa: vibhava, anubhava, satvika bhava, vyabhichari bhava, and sthayi bhava. And then the Western is about the 5 primary rasas: neutrality, shanta, dasya, sakya, vatsalya, madhurya. And the northern side is about the secondary rasas that kind of mix with the primary ones. Okay, so I have to admit, I always really wondered what these things were. They sound very esoteric. I could never quite understand it. I'm still not saying I understand it, but I found a nice description of them, so I share it with you. This comes from actual Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami. So the first wave of this side of the ocean of Nectar of Devotion, chapter 20 to 26, deals with Vibhava, which is that which stimulates our eternal affection for Krishna, heightening it to the point of relishable ecstasy. So the example is given that a mother sees her child's face, it heightens her love. She already has love, but then the love kind of becomes like a huge tsunami or a big wave. So that's Vibhava. It's a stimulus heightening love. That's Vibhava. The second is Anubhava. This is chapter 17. This is the action that results from heightened affection for Krishna. So Anu means to follow. So this is the action that follows Vibhava. So Vibhava heightens the affection or love, and Anubhava is the action that comes from that. So for example, a mother embraces her child. She sees the child's face, her love is heightened, and she embraces the child. And that embracing further heightens the emotion. So as she embraces the child, she feels even more love. Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion calls it subsequent ecstasy, because it kind of comes from the ecstasy. Anubhava Prabhupada calls causes of ecstasy, and Vibhava calls causes of. Prabhupada calls Vibhava causes of ecstasy, and Prabhupada calls Anubhava subsequent ecstasy. The next one is Satvika Bhava, which is chapter 18. Prabhupada calls it constitutional or existential ecstasy. And remember, the mother saw the child's face, her love is heightened, and the conscious thing she does is embrace the child, but things that she doesn't consciously or on purpose do, that maybe she starts crying, or she becomes stunned, these kind of ecstatic symptoms. So things that happen to her as a result of that heightened emotion, that's called Satvika Bhava. So involuntary reaction resulting from heightened affection for Krishna that also further heightens the affection. Okay? Don't worry, none of this is going to be in the exam. If it's getting too much, just switch off, because I just found it exciting. I wanted to share it with you, but it's not something you need to memorize. And then Vyabhichari Bhava, it's the fourth one. Nectar of Devotion calls it aggressive ecstasy. And this is the emotional experience that results from intensified affection for Krishna that further embellishes and stimulates that affection. So the mother has so much love for her child, and suddenly she sees the child in some danger, or the child has some great achievement, in school, the child gets first prize for something. So the already existing love and affection of the mother is heightened by something. So the danger would create more anxiety, or the achievement would create pride that further increases this motherly affection. And these are like waves that come up and heighten the affection, and then kind of return to the ocean, or return to the kind of baseline. And then the last one is the Sthayi Bhava. This is the eternal mood of affection for Krishna. So, for example, if somebody loves Krishna as a servant or a friend, that's their Sthayi Bhava, that's their kind of eternal mood of affection for Krishna. Prabhupada calls this continuous ecstasy. Okay, so don't ask me any questions on this, because I only understand what I just explained. I don't have any experience or deeper knowledge of it, but I thought I would share this with you, because for many years I wondered what these are, and I found it very helpful. Okay, any last questions, points, comments? Okay, Kat?
Yeah, I wondered for the last two, what were the chapters where we can find them?
So Vyabhichari Bhava, that's chapter 29 to 31. And the Sthayi Bhava is chapter 32 to 34.
Thank you.
Okay. And for a last exercise, last introspective exercise, I'd like you to think back a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, when we first started the course. And I asked you to do this homework, the very first homework. What's your goal in doing this Bhakti Shastri course? What are your expectations? What are you hoping to achieve? Remember that those were the questions, and you did a little essay on it. For those devotees who maybe started a bit later, then just try to think when you joined the course, what were your hopes, expectations, what were you trying to achieve? And then try to think about now. So how do you see it now? Did you manage to achieve your purpose? What were your experiences? Okay, so I'd like everybody to share maybe 2 minutes to inspire us all, and we all get really happy and inspired before finishing this course. Okay, I don't know who wants to start, who feels brave enough. Okay, let's have Radha Hari.
Hare Krishna, Janavipriya. It's interesting you asked the question, because I was messaging Yashoda Priya earlier today, and I actually, this was something that we discussed. And I think when you first asked this question 2 years ago, for me, the goal was to get closer to Srila Prabhupada's books. It's something that I'd struggled with, and it was something that was really necessary for me. And I was saying to Yashoda Priya today, I feel that that's happened, that I've got closer to Srila Prabhupada and to his books, to his teachings. And yeah, what an incredible journey that is, to have been on that, and kind of very much grateful to you as well, because you have led us on this journey, and without you I don't think it would have been possible to have reached that goal. Obviously there's still so much more for me to do and learn, but getting closer to Srila Prabhupada's books was my goal, and I believe that I've made progress in that respect. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Radha Hari. I'm really happy that you achieved this, that you feel closer to Prabhupada's books. And I hope that if I could be of any little service in this process, then you will bless me and help me on my journey getting closer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So much in deep gratitude to you.
Thank you. Anyone else feels brave enough? Kat?
Hare Krishna, yeah, my 2 goals at the start, as far as I can remember, was preaching. Like, was really interested how I can apply this in preaching. And the second goal was to better understand Srila Prabhupada's books as well. And I feel like definitely this course helped me achieve them. With preaching, he gave us so many points, so much material, and so many exercises to do, which after this course, like at the moment it's a bit jumbled in my head, but after this course I'm going to go back and apply them and take time to do that. And also actually now when I'm sort of helping devotees and doing programs, the points that you taught us are coming up. Like I'm actually integrating the knowledge into like sharing Krishna consciousness with others, and yeah, like that. So that's really good. And also she'll understand the Sri Prabhupada's books as well. Like there's so many misconceptions that I've had that you managed to clear up and really go deep into those sort of problem areas and really clear the misunderstandings. So yeah, thank you so much for your patience and yeah, just your efforts in helping us understand these books. And actually another goal that I kind of came out as a result of this is like belief in myself, like how much I can actually do. Like I did not, when I started this course, I was a bit like, I don't know if I have time to do it, and I don't know if I can dedicate myself enough. Like it just seems like such a lot of work. But actually I thought, well, there's never gonna be a perfect time, so let me just try. And I'm so surprised I've actually managed to stick with it and stick through the whole journey and actually like make the time and put in the effort and yeah, like dedicate, yeah, like just go through with it. And I didn't think I would be able to like answer any of the homeworks or like do so well in the quizzes and exams. So I believe in myself a lot more now thanks to this course.
I'm really happy to hear that. Actually, kind of the purpose of Bhakti Shastri, and when I start teaching a course or through teaching a course, my purpose is to help devotees get a taste for reading Prabhupada's books, for Krishna conscious philosophy, give them the kind of tools or instruments that will help them study Prabhupada's books. And also, like you say, have some confidence that you can do it, you are able to do it, and then you can help others as well. So the experience that you got from this course, then you can help others get the same.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Prema, please.
Yeah, very, very similar. As far as I remember, like, my goal was that I wanted to understand Prabhupada's books with more depth, more understanding. And also, when it comes to reading, I'm quite easily distractible. And, the idea of having something structured that I had to apply in my mind, that I had to think in a kind of logical and structured fashion, and think about, particular topics at a particular time and actually sit down and do it, because there was expectations to hand something in. It's been really good for me, because left to my own devices, I start reading and then I go, oh look, a squirrel, and off I go. It's been really good for getting a bit more discipline back into my mind. And also I'd mentioned it previously, that I used to give Namhat as like long time ago, and I hadn't done it for years, and I'd kind of lost my confidence for speaking and for sharing with other devotees. And again, it's helped give me confidence, and like the knowledge and information is fresher in my mind, or I've got it in a homework, or I've got it in a note somewhere in a structured way, so I know where to find something if I want to speak about it. So yeah, it's been really good, and there have been a couple of occasions that that I actually have put it into practice and been able to share it with people. So yeah, thanks for that.
I heard really good kind of feedback from Prema's Namahata classes. Devotees were like, wow, this is amazing. So they were all really happy to hear you. And it's true, like you say, you know, sometimes all of us need some structure, or a little bit of kind of, okay, I need to do it by this time. Otherwise, it's so easy to have other, you know, other priorities come, and then we don't read or don't study. So it's good to have that little bit of push. And I want to thank you personally, Prema, for coming. Known you for a very long time, and it was really nice spending this time with you like this. So I'm very grateful to you for that.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm happy to hear that. Anyone else? Yashoda Priya?
Hare Krishna, I echo everyone's points. I've actually had a quick look at my first homework just to remind myself. But I also put like trying to deepen my understanding of Srila Prabhupada's books and in terms of preaching as well. But I've also noticed over time as well, really more what I wanted from these as well. And I found, especially when we were going through the modules of the Bhagavad Gita, I'd read the Gita a few times before this course, but still it seemed very, very theoretical.
Mm-hmm.
And through the modules, it almost as if like there was a veil that's just been lifted, and suddenly I can see Krishna and Arjuna actually having this conversation, and how why Arjuna was asking these questions at particular times, and suddenly the Gita became so much more alive and more relatable to my own life, that I can actually understand, okay, this in this particular situation and difficulty, I understand a little bit of what it's like to be in Arjuna's shoes. Therefore, what does Krishna say to him, and how can I apply that to my life? And then that's also helped me in my preaching to be able to understand how this is actually applied in my life. So therefore, I can I have a little bit more understanding of how this relates for others also. Yeah, definitely there's a lot more clarity in reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and then also a greater gratitude and towards what Srila Prabhupada has done to bring us this knowledge, and an enthusiasm to also want to share it to others because it's so true.
That's really good. What you said about Bhagavad Gita, it really resonates with me. I had a very similar experience when I did Bhakti Shastri. I've been reading Bhagavad Gita for like 25 years at that point. And when I did Bhakti Shastri, it was like, okay, so this is why Arjuna is asking this question. This is why Krishna is answering this. Before that, it was lots of wonderful teachings, but a little disconnected. I couldn't quite put it all together, but then it just became a whole. And like you say, it all comes to life, and not just on a life of its own, but how it applies to my life and how I can help other people's lives with it. So yeah, that's a really good. I can empathize with that, or I can relate to that. Thank you. And also thank you for taking part in the course. It was a great inspiration, wonderful homeworks. So thank you for that. Everybody, by the way, just because I don't say everybody, you wrote wonderful homeworks. It was really, my apologies for not correcting. I'm a little behind just now, but I do them. but it's always nice to read devotees' realizations and see how they are inspired or how they understand the philosophy. That's always really, really good. Thank you. Anyone else feels Niracha Chandra Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I started a bit later, so I didn't have the it was actually just to understand the Srila books, because I thought, oh, Bhakti Shastri is very academic, you need to be this and that. But yourself and Manjari Mataji persuaded me to have a go and see what happens. And all the devotees who come every week, they've really inspired me in the sense that I'm thinking, wow, these people are so young, yet they know so much, not just love and knowledge. And I was like, and it's all in the books, and it's really sort of inspired me to try and look at myself and how I can develop this to put it into my life and to help other people. But I have to help myself first before I can help other people.
No, definitely. Definitely.
The way you taught us, like you're saying, like Bhagavad Gita, I've read it so many times that you just read it. The way you structured it and the way you went into details and the explanation and stuff. I read this 1,000 times, never thought about it like this. So it was really, yeah, thank you so much for that. And I always, although I know I don't do too much of the work and just time doesn't allow it, but I really look forward to coming on Fridays and try something. I try not to miss any because it's so inspiring. Thank you.
We are very happy that you are here, Nilacha Chandra Prabhu. We are really happy that you joined, and yeah, a really nice addition. It's actually, I was thinking that without this Bhakti Shastri course, a lot of the devotees I would have never met, and a lot of the devotees would have never met each other. So this way we had a nice kind of weekly Sangha. Somehow Krishna brought us together from different parts of the UK. So we can have some nice Krishna conscious discussion. So that's really nice, and I'm really grateful to you for that. I don't know if Mataji wants to, Prema Vilasni Mataji wants to speak because she needs to leave, or if she doesn't, then that's also okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So next Friday I won't be writing exam. So this is my last Friday. And I was actually wondering, when is the new course will be starting?
Mataji, sorry?
You will be doing another course, isn't it? Bhakti Shastri.
Yeah, if there are enough devotees that come together, then I'll do another one.
Normally, which month do you start?
I don't. So far, usually towards the end of the year, but I don't think it's more just whenever enough devotees come together who do the course.
So there's no particular month.
I'll let you know if it happens, and then you can join if you want.
Yeah, because we'll be going to India in October, November. So if it is starting in November, then I'll miss out again.
Let's just see. Right now, I don't really have any huge number of devotees asking for the course. So let's see.
But I really enjoy your class, and all the devotees are amazing, wonderful. And hoping to join again.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm really happy that we could have your association. Thank you. And Jayananda Prabhu, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tricky to sort of say something more than what's been said already, but I'll have a little go. Okay. Yeah, it's been much better than I thought it would be. I thought when I sort of volunteered to go on this course, I thought, oh no, what have I let myself in for? But it's really been much better than I thought it would be. It's helped me clear out some cobwebs that were in my head. So, very, very grateful for that. It's helped me understand the books better. It's been great to have a little focus each week to sort of spend on an in-depth study of Bhakti Rasa Sindhu. Yeah, it's been very, very helpful, really. Yeah. So thank you for all your hard work, and you set a great example in being such a good teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. I would also like to thank you all for coming every week, because you can't be any kind of teacher unless you have people who are prepared to sit there and listen. So you are the only reason why I can do this service. I'd also like, obviously, to thank my spiritual master, Srila Shivaram Maharaj, who's inspiring me by his very serious studies and his books. Srila Prabhupada, who wrote these books, and every time we read them, we get something more, something more. They're alive. Even though Prabhupada is not here, books just appear to be like, in one sense, objects, but still they are alive, because each time we read them, we get new reciprocation, a new relationship, or deeper relationship. I'd also like to thank Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. I was attending his Bhakti Shastri course, and I found it so amazing and so inspiring that I thought, wow, it's like a whole new world opened up. And I thought the best way I can continue this, because once you finish Bhakti Shastri, that's the end. If I start teaching it, then each time I can kind of relearn it over and over and over again. And each time you can go a bit deeper. So I'm very, very grateful to him. And also to Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, who was teaching Bhakti Vaibhav, because he kind of continued in the same mode of teaching, of going in depth of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm also very grateful to him, and also many other devotees who are teaching, whose classes I've listened to or I'm listening to. So thank you very much. Just last more technical points. The exam is next Friday. Okay. I know Yashda Priya, maybe one or two others won't be able to do it. Maybe Divya Vrindavan won't be able to do it next Friday. So then we'll have another exam when those who missed that on Ishopanishad exam and those who missed that on Nectar of Devotion exam, they can all do it together. Some will do Ishopanishad, some will do Nectar of Devotion. I hope nobody missed out on both, because then it's going to be difficult. So just for next Friday, as much as possible, do the Nectar of Devotion. And then those who missed out, can you please write to me? So I got the list of everybody who needs to kind of catch up on an exam, and then we can fix up another date for that exam. Okay. And until Mataji, please.
Yeah, so there is a class next Friday?
No, next Friday is just exam. It's just exam.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
if you have any questions for the exam or anything, just write to me during the week. And I promise to mark your homeworks and your thematic essays. I'll catch up on that. Okay. So thank you very much. Please accept my obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Srila ki jai. Vaishnav Sangha ki jai. Haribol.
Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Haribol, everybody.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.